Good morning, everybody. I hope you are all well. This assembly will focus on be healthy and specifically on being creative and how to be creative. But before we think about that, I want to just mention a couple of important issues. At this point, I want to address a very important issue. I'm very proud that our school believes in equality, and I believe that everybody is treated fairly and with respect. However, I'm also very sorry to say that isn't the case across the world. And there are a group of people that have not been treated well and have not been treated fairly. And we want to really focus on that. That's why over the next coming weeks, we're really going to address the issue of Black Lives Matter. And then that will continue going into the future. Your teachers will ask you to write maybe a poem or a piece of writing, and then we'll take some of those pieces of writing and extract from your great pieces of work, and we'll come up with a joint YouTube video which celebrates Black Lives Matter. Also this half term, we'll be working on Mr. Morgan's award scheme. So on Monday the 22nd, the teachers will give out the next, in fact it's the final instalment of the award scheme, but the deadline will be quite quick, so the deadline will be the 10th of July. Now we really believe in this award scheme. We think it's very important. If you consider the words that are there, so enrichment, perseverance, so keeping going when it's difficult, preparation, so being somebody who tries hard and prepares for your work, engaging in these kind of activities, really important. Life's better, I think, if you engage in these activities. Commitment to the task, resilience, all of those words are really important. So I just thoroughly encourage you all to wholeheartedly get involved with Mr. Morgan's award scheme, even if you didn't engage with it for the first three sessions of it. Now, moving on to our theme of be healthy. Looking at all of those words on the left, are you doing those things? So even if you haven't been, there's nothing we can do about the past, but we can about the future. You can from today. Are you being socially healthy whilst abiding by the government's rules on social distancing? So that might be a phone call to your friends. I think it's really important, firstly from your point of view, but also what about from their point of view? Team KR talks about sacrifice and commitment and all those kind of things. Well, maybe you could make a sacrifice and phone somebody who you think could do with that phone call. And then going to the bottom one, are you being emotionally healthy? Are you looking after yourself? Are you being honest about how you feel with somebody? Don't bottle up these emotions. It doesn't matter who you speak to, but speak to somebody if you're feeling worried or anxious, including about coming back to school. And then the last one I want to talk about is being physically healthy. Now, you know my view about how really it's very important to be active. Now, for some of you, that will be playing sport, but some of you won't like sport, and that will be being healthy in other ways. So, again, in line with the government's guidance, it might be going for a walk with your parents, it might be doing yoga, all of those kind of things. But also eating well. So I've talked about not snacking and just eating unhealthy things. Now, my view is sweets and chocolate are fine, I have no problem with them, but they've got to be in moderation and as a treat. So your parents will be putting things on your plate, such as vegetables and options of fruit. Don't dismiss them, don't make it hard work, embrace those parts of your diet. I want to move on to the right hand side. So I know we've briefly talked about creativity and resilience and diligence. But I want to spend a few minutes now really honing in on what creativity means. I'd like to talk about what I mean by being creative. Now, for some, that might be a piece of art. So some people can really show their creativity through artwork, but it means so much more than that. There's so many different ways you can show creativity. In fact, you can show creativity in many ways. Now, as a head teacher, I get asked to write lots of boring documents. And my mind with all of those documents, and I have to say my mind with lots of things, is about trying to do it in a different way and better than everybody else. So I want my information to be different to everybody else's, but I want it to be better than everyone else's. And I think that's a good mantra for you all to have with your work. How can you make your work better than everybody else's, but different to everybody else's? I think that's really important. I think in order to be creative with something, you have to really understand what's being asked of you. So let's take a story, for example. Your teacher says to you, right, write this story. Now, if you haven't listened to what's been asked of you, you're not being creative. You're not fulfilling the task. So in order to fulfill the task, you have to attentively listen to what's being asked. And then if you fully understand what's being asked of the story or the maths investigation or the PE activity or whatever it is, then you can show immense creativity. So the best footballers are a good example of that, I suppose. So footballers who are really, really good, they have to follow the rules of the game. So they have to know not to run out the sidelines, how to score a goal, not be offside, and all of those kind of things. If they don't know those rules, they can't be creative. So it's really important that you understand, you attentively listen to what's being asked of you. Let's have a look at what some inspirational people say about writing. We'll start with Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was a famous writer and poet, and she said, "What I try to do is write. I may write for 2 weeks. The cat sat on the mat. That is that, not a rat. And it might be just the most boring and awful stuff, but I try. When I'm writing, I write. And then it's as if the muse is convinced that I'm serious and says, okay, okay, I'll come." By muse, she's talking about her thoughts. So the point she's making, she starts at a place that she thinks is not interesting, is not creativity, which is fine for us all. I think for us all, sometimes a blank piece of paper is really difficult. Well, she says, and I agree, just get something down. And then you've started, it's not a blank piece of paper anymore, and then develop it into something more creative. For some, it's easy just to be creative right from the offset. We're all different. Boo-boo, we're all different. We think in different ways. Maya Angelou also said this, which I think is really incredible. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have, and I absolutely agree with that. There's some days I come into school and I cannot think about anything unique. I find it really difficult, but then there's other days I come in and my brain has come up with the most creative ideas and they flow and they flow and they flow. But the point is that once you've used some creativity, it doesn't disappear. You can be more and more creative. Now, I know there's some of you sitting there thinking, crikey, I'm not creative. You've got to get rid of those thoughts. You are creative. The person you sit next to in class might be incredibly creative with art, and the other side might be really creative with maths and can see solutions. That doesn't mean you're not creative. You're unique, you're special, boo-boo. You will be creative in ways that they won't be. One of the most creative people in our history is a guy called Walt Disney, and he said lots of things about creativity. One of the things he said is that if you can dream it, you can do it. And I think that's about writing. Writing and art, I suppose, is this world that can be anything you want it to be. If you want your world to have dinosaurs or unicorns or rainbows or whatever, it can have that. It doesn't have to obey the laws of physics. Your world can be whatever you want it to be. And actually on that, and I guess I'm digressing a little bit, it's really important what you put into your mind. If you're watching programs that have swear words or violence and all of those kind of things, that's what occupies your mind. And when you try to be creative or when you dream or when you think, they're the thoughts that are more likely to occur. So keep your mind pure. Don't watch 12 or 15 or 18 films. Don't watch 12 or play 12 or 15 or 18 games. Even if someone says you can, please don't. Keep your mind full of positivity and good stuff. Don't fill it with rubbish. Don't fill it with rubbish. Some people think the next person is the cleverest person that there's ever been. He's got amazing thoughts about space and developed incredible theories. I'm talking about a guy called Albert Einstein. So he's known as being very knowledgeable. And he says this: creativity is intelligence having fun. And I've not written this quote down, but he also talks about that creativity is the most important aspect of intelligence. Creativity is an aspect of intelligence. Intelligence is absolutely knowing general knowledge and maths and English, but it's not just that. Intelligence is the ability to be creative. Intelligence, you can be sportingly intelligent. You can be intelligent socially or knowing yourself. Intelligence isn't just about recall of maths and English stuff. And I'm going to conclude on this last quote, which I think is really important, and I think it links back to Mr. Morgan's award scheme. That quote is, "Don't stop until you're proud." If you're not proud of your piece of work, invest more time in it. Ask when you're back in school, can you take a break? Or if you're at home and you're working, maybe have a break. And that's what excellence without compromise means. Excellence without compromise means, yes, do your best you can do. But once you've stopped, maybe you're hungry or you're tired, stop, have a break because you're not being excellent. Come back to it after a break, but don't accept for yourself anything that's mediocre. Be the best you can be at all times. And I'll finish on that. Be healthy today. Be healthy this week.